Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I'm really glad you're here. Today's date is Friday, May 23rd, 2025. I've recently had a conversation with a friend about the concept of inserted history. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, inserted history is said to occur when parts of history, such as events or people, were made up or inserted into the timeline to trick people or add credence or believability to a desired narrative. And there's many inserted history theories out there, ranging from dinosaurs to NASA to all sorts of events and items. But there was one in particular that came up in conversation that I thought might make a good tarot exploration. You see, some say that the books by Ingersoll Lockwood may have been inserted into the timeline. I have a collective copy of them here that one of my wonderful subscribers sent to me about a year ago. Okay, now the ones in particular that are rumored to have been inserted into the timeline include The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bulger, which was published in 1889, supposedly. Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, published 1893, and the final one, 1900, or The Last President, published 1896. Now, I went and did a little bit of research to see if there was a possibility that there was proof one way or the other about this theory about these books having been inserted into the timeline. The because we were told it would be relatively easy to do to make a book look aged, what have you, and travel it back in time, and insert it into our history. Well, the Library of Congress card catalog, not the digital one that came about in the 1990s, but the original one that started in I think the early part of the 20th century, 1907, is when these three books were cataloged, not in the digital format, but in the original card catalog. So I did a little checking on that. And it's interesting to see these card catalog numbers because they not only give you some indication of date, but the practice has always been that the card catalog assigned numbers for the Library of Congress card catalog number is just done sequentially. So they're not divided up by category or anything first. They're just entered sequentially and then they're categorized afterwards. So it does give you some idea with the sequencing when something was listed in the Library of Congress. Now, so that lends some believability to the fact that these are genuine items that were created when we're told they were created. But there's very little chatter about it. I did a search of the major auction houses, and before 2017, there's no record, even though this was an obscure and possibly at one point a very collectible type of writing. There's not any evidence that they were traded about in auctions prior to 2017 when we got our attention drawn to the fact that there was an eerie similarity between some modern events and people, and including the fact the Baron Trump, and we have a real Baron Trump now, and the Trump properties mirroring an address that was listed in that book. Anyway, the similarities were drawn to people's attention in 2017, and then reprints were quickly made available and very popular. So if these books were inserted into history, it had to have been done much earlier than when they gained attention in 2017. So it's not impossible because there's not other corroborating information other than the Library of Congress number that seems to bolster that thought that they were written and published when we're told they were written and published. I couldn't find any anecdotal evidence of people having original copies in old family libraries, collections of science fiction works or dystopian novels from way back. Didn't seem to include these novels. So there's some possibility that there is some truth to this theory that these books were indeed inserted into our timeline, into our history. And I thought that would make an excellent tarot question. So have these titles been inserted into history, as some people speculate? Let's ask the tarot cards. I'm going to change the camera, let you watch me work with the cards, and we'll find out the answer to this question together, plus additional insights and information about inserted history that the universe wants to share with us. All right, 1 second. So over the years, I've had numerous people ask me to about these novels, and uh, I don't know. I never connected them with a possibility of being inserted into the timeline until recently, and that's why I want to explore this. So we're asking respectfully, have the novels, the Ingersoll Lockwood novels that I referenced earlier in this video, um, and showed a collective work about, have those three novels been inserted into the timeline, become part of our inserted history heritage, plus additional insights and information the universe might want to share with us? Okay, we have the Ten of Cups, the I'm laughing because it's already telling me some stuff. The Seven of Cups, the Nine of Swords, the Eight of Cups, lots of cups, guys. The Seven of Swords, the Nine of Pentacles, and Queen of Cups. Let's talk about some of the insights I got from these cards, and as well as the intuitive nudges I've gotten. Okay, so let's take a look at these cards and see. First of all, I chuckled when I got to the second card, the clarifier for the first card. And let me explain why. The Ten of Cups, cups are our emotion suit, so it's things you feel, not so much things that are tangible and logic. And the 10 is a very happy ending type of card. So in other words, don't worry, be happy type of thing. And something to celebrate is kind of indicated with the Ten of Cups. But the Seven of Cups often talks about smoke and mirrors, multiple choices, things to distract and what have you. And that was the first indication I had that yes, there is some merit to the theory that the Ingersoll Lockwood books were indeed inserted into our history. Now we're told don't worry if they have been. Okay, there's very little to worry about. It was just one of those items that um, the white hat said, this would help wake people up, especially once they found out an insertion had happened, again, to starting to prove to people that that statement made recently that I referenced in my last video, that time and space are now can be manipulated by the white hats. It's so the this is a good topic to ask about. Now, we're told, don't worry about it. Again, here we've got the Eight of Cups, again, feeling emotions, but this is one of turning aside, taking a path less traveled and a little time for reflection and a little time apart. And so, see, these things were taken out of their creation timeline, their place, and placed a little time apart from when they actually were. So there we're getting some yeses. Nothing a hard yes yet, but I will get additional cards and we'll see what shows up. Let's look at the near future. Now, our swords are our suit that involves words, the written and spoken word. And so I was actually a little surprised that we didn't see more swords earlier in this read, other than the one here that says, there's not as much to worry about as you think there are. And again, we were asking about those three books, and there's three swords kind of indicated by that person there. Let's look here. These swords talk about kind of getting away with something. So yeah, I think again, we're getting that confirmation. The insertion theory is absolutely valid and real. The insight cards showing up on either side of this, okay, provide a little more clarity. We have the Nine of Pentacles. Again, just a card of uh, sovereignty, lavish um, uh, enjoyment, the finer things in life enjoyed. Sure reminds me of what I hear about the Trumps. And then the Queen of Cups is always talking about use your emotional intelligence. Think it through, guys. Trust your gut, trust your feeling. Okay. If these dystopian novels, and they are dystopian to some extent, they're science fiction, if nothing else, or fiction, um, strike you as a good possibility of something that could have been written with an eye to making it appear to be older literature and then placed um, at a different time than when it was actually done, trust your emotions. Of course, I would say that in any situation, whether you're listening to a current event or what have you, trust your gut, trust your emotions. That's all discernment is trusting your gut. And the more you do, the more you practice it, the more it's going to quickly give you right answers. Let's get a few more cards and see what else the universe wants us to know about what I thought to be just a kind of happy little topic to explore that had nothing to do with politics, other than, the fact that these novels do seem to have a tie-in to the Trump family. We've got the Queen of Swords, Temperance, another 10 with the Ten of Wands, and the Four of Pentacles. Okay, our final four cards here, and then we have a couple multiples I wanted to mention real quickly too. Queen of Swords, again, swords are our word, the written and spoken word, and this, the Queen in political reads or non-specific, like, non-personal reads, usually talks about being patient and being able to kind of play the long game and see clearly through what might be clouds of confusion. So the Temperance card uh, talks about teamwork and moderation. We got moderation here of resources, and it looks like of time here with the Temperance card. And again, the Temperance card, while being a major arcana, does include some cups in it, and that's our emotions and a tie into some of the other cards that showed up during this read. The final two cards, we get less impactful as we go, but they do have some information for us. Just we're in a period of time where some events are going to start. There's going to be more clarity. Things are going to wind up being known. And this is just a nod to the fact that, as we keep saying, and the cards keep telling us, nothing can stop what is coming. And it looks like we're kind of playing some end game things here, end game theory going on. The Four of Pentacles just talks about being cautious with your expenditure of, resources, whatever they might be. So this was deemed an interesting little addition to the timeline, to a non-speculation, and then later on to proving to people some scientific facts that some people are going to have a little difficulty believing. So while we didn't get a hard yes in the form of an ace, we did get some nods here to don't worry about it, but yes, there has been some manipulation going on. Don't worry about it. Again, careful use of resources. It wasn't a huge expenditure. It's just one of those outlier projects that the White Hats deemed to be worthwhile, especially eventually as we get into some historical corrections and truth. Okay, one second. Let me return that camera back. Here we go. Let's recap. We were exploring whether the possibility of the Ingersoll Lockwood Baron Trump Adventures collection, the original works, could possibly have been items that are inserted history. And I have a friend, had a conversation with him, and he believes that they very well could be. And I thought, hey, let's do a little investigating and see. Now, I couldn't find any record of the Baron Trump adventures being handled by any of the major auction houses before 2017. I couldn't find any anecdotal evidence of people having original copies of this in family libraries. Um, the uh, the items that tended to support the fact that these books have been around for a while is the original Library of Congress card catalog numbers, which are assigned sequentially, indicate that all three of those books were cataloged originally in 1907. Didn't mean they can't have been inserted, but they would have been inserted back, not recently to look old, but back at the time of publication or shortly thereafter. if they were. So I said, hey, let's ask the universe and see what they want. The universe wants us to know about these books in particular and maybe inserted history in general. Well, first of all, what we got were the situation indicates the 10 of cups, which is kind of a nod to happy endings and satisfactory conclusions and what have you. Just telling us, your conclusions have some merit. And the clarifier for that was the nine, pardon me, the Seven of Cups, which talks about smoke and mirrors. Again, just a nod to the fact that this theory has some merit to it. The uh, cards had in the read, there were multiples, and I want to speak about those because I didn't in the course of making the original card read. So we had two nines, which talk about being in the right place at the right time. And we were asking about were these placed in the timeline? And so we get a little nod with the multiple nines that there's some possibility of that. We had two sevens that showed up in the course of this read, and those talk about signs and messages from the universe being emphasized, so that these messaging was being emphasized to us. And finally, we had a couple of tens that showed up, especially with the final four insight cards. I got the multiple and the tens. And that talks, when you have multiple tens, it's a nod to situations are coming to their natural conclusion very soon, and that paves the way for new beginnings. Again, just a nod to, hey guys, situations are rapidly coming to some conclusions, and we're going to places where we've been long waiting for some disclosures, from truth, some transparency. And the cards are saying, hey, that time is coming very, very soon. So again, no hard yeses, but lots of emphasis that messaging and this theory has merit. And so, yeah, I'm a believer. I am that they were somehow, some way inserted into our timeline, and that there's a definite connection to them and the Trump family name. It's not just a coincidence, this odd similarities between the titles and characters in these books and the Trump family. Not at all. Not according to the cards, anyway. That's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and your attention, and I don't take you for granted. If you're willing to receive it, I'll be happy to send you love, light, and wish for you everything bright. Always, and especially until next time. Bye.